Russia reporter and editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews. He joins us now from Berlin. Ben, good to have you with us. So, judging from what the German doctors have said, it does look as though Navalny was poisoned. The question everyone will be asking is whether this was on the orders of someone in the Kremlin.
Well, that's been the subject of a great deal of speculation, and a lot of people have said, yes, this is Putin's Russia, and he's taking advantage of getting a prominent and very vocal critic out of the way, particularly ahead of the US elections, where the US are particularly distracted, and so that this would be possible to do. However, personally, and I think the more informed opinion is that it's very difficult to say. It's probably quite unlikely that Putin himself ordered this, in so much as Navalny himself said that he would be a bigger problem to Putin dead than he would be alive, because he would be elevated to a sort of martyr. And the Kremlin is riven by a whole bunch of fractions, including security services. And you also have to bear in mind, what does Navalny do? I mean, he's best known as a anti-corruption fighter. And he continuously brings out these exposés of a lot of powerful people, not just politicians, exposing their corruption, exposing their wealth. And he has a lot of enemies. There are a lot of people who would like to do him in. In Russia, if you're a Russian journalist, the one thing that's almost guaranteed to get you beaten up or worse is to expose corruption in your town, city, sector, whatever it is. So it's almost impossible to say. I'm pretty sure we'll never know. However, as I say, the chances are that Putin himself personally ordered this as a political assassination seem to me relatively unlikely.
So probably we'll never get to the bottom of this, but what do you think the impact will be on the opposition in Russia? Will it deter them, or will this fuel more opposition?
I think it will fuel it. I mean, the opposition's been having a hard time, and as I say, investigative reporters, it's actually a dangerous job. As a foreign correspondent, there's only one that's been killed in connection with an investigation in the last 20 years, but our colleagues on the Russian press side are beaten up and murdered on a regular basis. And the opposition has seen itself embattled. I mean, it's in a minority, it has no access to the mass media. It makes very effective use of the internet, but they're constantly harassed. Navalny himself is in and out of jail on a regular basis, umpteen times a year, as he tries to organize protests, as he tries to organize demonstrations, and the authorities are just harassing him, but usually at a fairly low level. I mean, he gets locked up for 15 days, 30 days. Whenever there's going to be a big rally, him and his supporters can be arrested the day before to make sure they don't attend. That he's barred from elections, municipal elections. He was going to run in the Moscow city government, and he was predicted to give the incumbent mayor a run for his money, and was thrown out by the election commission at the last minute. So this is kind of par for the course. These are hardened fighters, and they're not going to give up.
So you mentioned, obviously, that journalists as well come under threat in Russia, as well as opposition. There have been calls for an investigation into what happened to Navalny. We've heard calls in the past for things that have happened to journalists and other opposition figures. Do you think there'll be an investigation in this case?
No. The Navalny team, his press secretary in particular, filed a formal complaint in Omsk, where Navalny landed on the emergency stop and ended up in hospital. And they filed a formal complaint claiming that he'd been poisoned. And under Russian law, a criminal investigation must be opened, at least, within 3 days. Those 3 days are now passed, and the criminal investigation has not been opened. And so as far as the letter of the law, that's just been ignored. But now you've got Chancellor Merkel, who got into the game, and she's been calling for a full and complete investigation. I mean, the Germans here, and the rest of Europe indeed, are interested in getting to the bottom of this, because Navalny is an active and high-profile political player in the domestic scene. And they want to see an investigation done. They want to see the culprits brought to book as part of that support to the systematic, the organized opposition to Putin, which there needs to be. However, this is Russia we're talking about, and if the Kremlin don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. If anything, there might be a bit of a show investigation that will go nowhere. This again is par for the course, so I think there's no legal recourse for Navalny here through the investigation or through the courts.
Ben, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Ben Aris there in Berlin.